Hello and welcome to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, precisionhydration.com.
Precision Hydration offer electrolyte drinks in different strengths to match how you sweat. Personalise your hydration strategy today at precisionhydration.com and get a free box or tube of pH worth up to $9.99 using the code OxygenAddict.
We're also brought to you by foodcell.co.uk.
The next generation of nutritional carriers designed to allow endurance triathletes and cyclists to carry enough food and gels while allowing easy access. Check it out at foodcell.co.uk.
And Team Oxygen Addict.
Event-specific training plans, coaching support from your host Rob Wilby, monthly video coaching calls and a private Facebook group for you and your teammates.
All right, and don't forget, if you're on Facebook, you can get into our free Oxygen Addict Triathlon community Facebook page, share lots of triathlon chat in there, and actually help later on. We've got somebody who correctly predicted the winners of Kona, so we'll have to mention that person a little bit.
Oh, yes, we got it wrong.
We sure did. Well, let's jump straight in, shall we, into the show, and I'm sure everybody's first thoughts this weekend have been the craziness out in Ironman Hawaii. Were you loving watching the footage this weekend, Hells?
I was there with my typical Hawaiian hat. I had deconstructed Hawaiian pizza as a little nibble, and then poke bowls whilst watching it on Face Freak. It was great.
I saw lots of photos of you guys wearing Hawaiian shirts. It looked like a lot of fun.
£7 from Amazon, Rob.
Very nice. Worth every penny.
Worth absolutely every penny. And poke bowls are the way forward.
What's a poke bowl, Hells? I have to ask.
So it's like a typical Hawaiian sort of food. So it's rice and almost like sushi fish. So we had seared tuna and then a load of different like vegetables and things. So we would have had radish and I don't know, sweet corn, grated carrots, and you kind of mix it all up and it's blinking delicious.
Oh, very nice. Very
there
impressed. There you go.
It was amazing though, Rob. The whole race and conditions were just perfect for a go faster Kona year. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, do you know what? That's the interesting thing is everyone's going like perfect conditions. Now, in my head, perfect conditions are not much wind and about 18 degrees. But I don't think that's the perfect conditions they got. The number of things I've read online with people going, the sun was melting the skin suit off my back. I think some extremely fit triathletes went extremely well in incredibly hot conditions. It just wasn't as windy as usual, was it?
Yeah, the wind did not play the role that it usually plays. So in terms of bike, I think the bike generally were around 10 minutes faster, I think, across the board.
Well, yeah, that was the interesting thing, wasn't it? Some people's bikes were affected much more than other people's bikes. So you've got to tip your hat to Cam Worth for his performance last year, because it seemed like everybody went loads faster on the bike this year, and he went, I think, 3 or 4 minutes faster than his race last year. But I think that puts his ride last year into, into the spotlight of how good it was in those conditions. It must have been his bike handling skills more than anything that allowed him to go so much faster than everybody else last year. And on a year when there's no wind or low wind, lots of people go really fast as well.
Yes, yeah. And then Daniela Reese time, Rob, on the bike as well, 4:26.
We have to talk about the ladies' race first. There's no, the thing to mention is we had some comments, didn't we, on social media over the last week about having missed out, and I feel really bad about this, having missed out in the mentioning last week of the first male person to get on the podium at the Marathon des Sables. And it was completely incorrect. It was the first male to be on the podium, but there's 2 ladies had been on the podium before, hadn't there?
From Great Britain.
From Great Britain. Yeah, what did I say? Sorry.
No. Just sort of make it,
Great Britain ladies. Yeah. So I was super upset when I found out I hadn't had the information right, because the last thing you want to do is overlook somebody. So it wasn't an issue of somebody being male or female. It's just me not having the information. So I think we kick off today with a women's coverage, because I think, I don't know whether everyone would agree, but I think Daniela Reese's performance at Kona is possibly the most outstanding triathlon performance of all time, bar none, ever, of any sex. I think it is so far ahead of anything we've ever seen. It's just incredible.
It just her bike, Rob. The the stats for the last 30K. Have you seen it? That in terms of everyone, like men and women, she was third, only behind Cam Worth and Joe Skipper.
It's bonkers. I think the ride back from Harvey, it's like a 2-hour ride.
Yeah.
And she was 2 minutes down, I think, on Camworth split over that back end of the.
Yeah.
Just an incredibly remarkable ride. And added to that, the fact that, have you read this thing about her being stung by jellyfish during the swim?
Yeah.
Hence her worse swim than usual. So to be able to pull up that kind of ride, I mean, God knows what it must feel like having jellyfish stings still all over you as you're going along.
Well, she said that it got her both sides, sort of under the arms. So she just said that she was in so much pain. But she said, and in her head, she's thinking, I really can't do this. I'm just going to quit. But she said
understandable.
She then sort of thought, no, actually, it's a long day. Jellyfish stings can die down. So I just have to give it a go and crack on. And she said she was ready to do a Jan Frodeno from last year, as in just make it to the finish line, not in a particularly nice fashion, but get there because of the respect for the race and the World Championships. So then to actually put that behind her and pull together just such an incredible performance is epic.
Stunning. And she just ran away from everybody in the run again. So I can't remember, did you predict her for the win?
I predicted her for the win. I predicted Lucy Charles for second. And then I nearly got it wrong. I did predict...
Did you have Sarah True for third?
Yeah, but initially, in my initial predictions, I said Anne Haug for third. And then I swapped it to Sarah True. I should have stuck with my... shouldn't I? Should have stuck with my firm beliefs.
You should have done, yeah. That would have been impressive.
Yeah, and I didn't. But anyway, Lucy Charles, though, wow. Her swim was... It was so amazing watching that. And just seeing the gap that she made between herself and Lauren Brandon, who swam, they swam together last year.
Yeah.
So just seeing those gaps, you're thinking, my God, this is just unbelievable. And then she biked so well, she ran so well, and on any of the, she broke that course record as well by a long way. But it's just Daniela Ryf was quicker.
I think she'd have happily taken those splits that she did before the race. But how unlucky to kind of turn up and do that kind of performance on a day when someone else does an even more staggering performance. That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah. But she will have her day.
She sure will. How long do you think Daniela Ryf will go on for? That's the question. She's got 4 wins now.
Yeah.
So that's as many as Chrissy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you think she'll go for number 5?
Surely, yeah.
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
I'd think so. I mean, I'm not her, but I'd imagine so. And then what a debut as well from Anne Haug.
I know, yeah, right?
Take out third, yeah. Really good race. There was
some proper run battling going on at the back end of that, didn't it?
Oh, yeah, because you had Rinny chasing them down. Obviously, Sarah True would pulled together a really, really good race, but faded towards the end on that run, which allowed Anne Haug to come through. Like Sarah Crowley was there, and Kaiser Sally as well. Corin Abraham had a fantastic race, coming off the bike really strongly. Yeah, it's great to watch.
I do wonder what Rinny was thinking when she got to the end of the bike, having done a 4:46 split, which is only a couple of minutes outside the Kona bike record. And she's always been known as a runner. Obviously, she can ride a bit, but she's never done anything like that in Kona. She was usually quite a way down, wasn't she? So she must have been looking at her watch and thinking, Yahoo! And then to go, sorry, I'm how far down?
Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah. No, honestly, absolutely insane. And I think the likes of Daniela Ryf and Lucy Charles are making everyone else up their game as well.
Yeah. So let's go through this. Daniela Ryf then takes out the win in 8:26 with splits of 57 on the swim, so down on what she would usually be because of the old jellyfish sting. 4:26 on the bike and rounds out with a 2:57. And then Lucy, God bless her, 48:14 on the swim to break the swim course record. 4:38, so I think that was 6 minutes inside the old bike course record, and then runs a very solid 3:05. So again, she's improving across the board, and that run's really coming together as well for an 8:36 finish. And Anne Haug in third finishes it out in 8:41. Was it Sarah True you had for third?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was only a couple of minutes in it, wasn't there?
Yep. Yep. So there you go. I was quite happy with my predictions on the women's side. Absolutely got it completely smack bang wrong on the men's side.
Yeah, well, you and everybody else, Hells.
Patrick Langer then, Rob.
Well, it was a different day to usual, wasn't it? My feeling is that course usually punishes people because of the crosswinds more than anything. It obviously isn't. It isn't a slow course in terms of terrain. It's an out and back. The road surface is good. Yes, there's some climbing in there, but obviously on a day like this, it's got potential to be a really, really quick day. And I think what we've seen in the past is the really strong bikers with good bike handling can just put time into everybody else because they're confident not getting blown all over the road. Whereas on a day like today, you saw there was essentially a big pack, wasn't there, at the front? Super bikers. We had Cam Worth, Andy Starkovitz and Josh Amberger. So, like, hats off first to Josh Amberger, I think. He had a really smart swim and he was doing some backstroke at some point. I don't know if you saw that, but he'd clearly made the decision. He didn't want to be out on his own on the front. He wanted some bikers to ride with. So I think that was a really smart move by him. And those guys drilled it away. But you also had another couple of, fast bike packs riding together. And it's one of those years where almost everybody in the top 20 put an astonishingly fast bike split together relative to, if you think for years, the bike course record sat at 4:18 for the men. And most of the top 20 have been under that time or are peppered around that time this year. So it goes to show how fast it was. Now, there's some interesting footage and comments being thrown around about Ironman becoming a team sport. Have you read this? Have you seen them online?
What, because of the Erding Alcoff, no?
Yeah, absolutely. So on a day like that, when there's a massive advantage to be gained by having a teammate riding with you, and obviously there's no drafting penalties being given out here. No one's suggesting that drafting has happened, but Andreas Dreitz, there's been some comments made by other pros that there was a lot of communication going on between the two, and Braden Curry was on record as saying, I hope he gets well paid for the job that he did. And you're like, oh, okay. So, there's lots of communication going on in terms of like, I feel good. Yeah, I'm still here, from Patrick Langer. Now, how much of this is like hearsay and reported from the pros after the race? You don't know, do you? But it's noticeable that he did that job on the front and essentially pulled a big pack of those guys along at a really, really solid pace. And fair play to him, because he did a superb job.
But is it? You can say, I'm just putting it out there, Rob. Is it that much different from, previously we've talked about perhaps some of the weaker swimmers then working together on the bike and actually discussing it beforehand?
I don't know whether it's any different or not. I just think it's interesting. Yeah.
I saw a post-race interview.
It's happened for years, hasn't it? It's happened with people forming alliances.
Exactly.
And, it's people wearing the same coloured kit forming alliances in this case, I guess. But still. I like it. I like Ironman to be every man for himself. I do.
Well, you could say same colour kit. They're both Germans. Patrick Langer said that in his race today, in his interview afterwards, clearly he's going to say that nothing happened. So, he said, no, we were both doing our own race.
I read that Patrick Langer received 2 warnings from
I saw him getting
a referee. One. He didn't get given a drafting penalty, but he got given a warning or 2 warnings. So again, who knows how much that's part of it. It's hard to see how close you are to the back wheel. I don't know, Hells.
Yeah, I think he did a bloody good race.
Well, yeah, fair play to him.
Yeah.
To close it out with a 2:41, you've got to say he's raced the smartest race on the day, haven't you? And made the best of it. I loved it when they came off the bike and we had him, we had Bart Aeronauts, we had Braden Curry and Tim O'Donnell, and Braden Curry and Tim O'Donnell looked like they were sprinting at each other.
They really did, didn't they?
They were going for it, didn't they?
Yeah, Braden Curry, when he was running side by side with Bartano, Bartano just looked very much more relaxed running style, and Braden Curry looked like he was using a lot more
Yeah, I'd agree with
energy.
that. Yeah, definitely.
It was fast. I really enjoyed watching that. But I mean, to finish fifth, he did an absolutely cracking race.
Yeah, I can't tell you how disappointed I am to find that Bart. Say his surname again.
Bartano.
Arnaud.
Yeah.
I wanted him to be aeronaut, like an astronaut.
Oh, yeah, it sounds better, doesn't it?
Aeronaut has this air of going really quick on a bike. I think we should the aeronaut Arnaud. How about that?
There you go. Yeah. So Patrick Langan takes the win, 7:52. Bartano second, 7:56, and then David McNamee. I was so happy for him, Rob, getting on the podium again. Clearly, he wanted the win, but to be back on the podium in third after his up and down season with an 8:01, delighted.
2 podiums in 2 years with a really quick 2:46 run again. A really, really super performance by him. Good lad.
And then other mentions, you could probably mention everybody in this top 10, but Matt Russell.
Yeah.
What a race from him. He was, so he had the bike crash, didn't he, at Kona last year?
So for people that don't know, Matt Russell got pulled out on by a car and he went through the side window of the car, didn't he? And ended up nearly dead on the roadside. So to come back and finish 6th is just stunning.
Remarkable. And then 7th, Mr. Joe Skipper.
Yay!
Hats off to you.
Well done, Joe.
8:05. Again, delighted for Joe Skipper that he pulled it together and he had the race that he knows he's capable of, finishing ahead of the likes of Andy Potts and Cam Worth. So to make it 2 British guys in the top 10.
Yeah. Very, very impressive.
Great.
And again, you look at that and you go, how unlucky to go 8:05 at Kona and finish 7th. That would have won every Kona bar like 2, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
Just a crazy, crazy year, but we could talk about it all night.
Let's have a look at some of the age group results as well before we go anywhere else. London-centric we'll go to start with, or Britain-centric, but hats off to Robert Drake, who was the first age grouper from the UK. He was 7th overall in his age group. He did 8:44 hells, which I think is amazing. He was one of the guys that Jamie Freeland flagged up from South London Harriers. Do you remember there were 3 guys that all qualified?
Yes.
So Robert Drake finished a very close second in the age group race to Neil Eddy at Ironman UK. Who was a couple of minutes behind him. So they've reversed the positions there. Neil Eddy was just behind Robert Drake this time, finishing 8th in his age group in 8:45. Dan Plews, who we had on the show in episode 179. Yeah, he was the first age group overall. 22nd place included in the pros in 8:24. Thank you very much.
That's great. And then Joe Spraggins, who we had on just a couple of weeks ago, we heard about how he had got his place at Ironman UK despite being knocked off his bike during the race at Bolton. He had a brilliant race, 9:49 he did.
Yeah, brilliant. And I don't know if you saw this, lots of pictures of him with a food cell on his bike, racing with a food cell at Kona.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So good stuff there. Over on the female side, tell us how Ruth Purbrook got on.
Yeah, Paul Lunn, I think we just need to mention his name. He was the one that we just forgot there. 3rd in the male 45 category in 9:08.
Cool. Ruth Purbrook?
Yep. So Ruth, she is an age group world champion. She said that's what she wanted. 3rd female age group overall. She had an absolutely fantastic race, and so well done to Ruth Purbrook, winner of the 25 to 29 female category.
Top stuff. And a final thing there, to shout out to Gary Fellows from the Oxygen Addict Triathlon community group on Facebook, who was, I believe, I went through and I did as much as I can. I believe he was the only person to get both Patrick Langer and Daniela Reef for the wins. So well done, Gary. Top work, man. We had one other race going on this weekend that no one's ever going to mention in comparison to Kona.
No. So Ironman Louisville, the swim was late because bad currents, shortened to just under a mile.
Yeah.
But wins there for Chris Lifferman he's in the same team as like the BMC team, isn't he?
Yeah.
And so he's got his Kona slot for next year. And then a fellow American, Jennifer Spieldenner, took the women's race.
So it was 0.9 of a mile swim, and it looked like most of the people were getting out of the water in about 12 minutes, to give you an idea of the currents there, Hells. 12 minutes for the 1,500 metres. Thank you very much. That must have been pretty scary getting into, I'd imagine.
Oh my God. That would have been horrendous.
I wouldn't mind doing a swim like that, though.
No, I did see that 12 minutes, and I thought, is that a mistake?
Right.
Yeah, I did think that cannot be right. But conditions looked horrible out there. Anyway, there we go. Those are our results for this week.
And a big shout out to our sponsors of the results section, Precision Hydration. Now, obviously, there was loads of precision hydration going down people's necks out in Kona this week, because they are the guys to talk to if you're dealing with cramps or if you're dealing with dehydration issues. So get yourself over to precisionhydration.com. You can take the online sweat test to see if you have the signs of being a particularly salty or heavy sweater. The results of those tests will point you towards each of their different individualized strengths of electrolyte. So whether you're not a very salty sweater or you are a very salty sweater, they've got all kinds of different sachets for you. My advice would be, if it turns out that the online test points towards you being an outlier in terms of either being a very heavy or very salty sweater, go see them in person and have a very quick in-person salt test done, or a sweat test done. The results of that can be extremely revealing, and it only takes about 20 minutes to have the thing done. So you can get all the information on that from precisionhydration.com. Remember, as a listener of the show, if you order anything from them, you can use the code Oxygen Addict, and you get £9.99 worth of free precision hydration, either a box or a tube of it. So basically, it's a risk-free trial. It's a no-brainer. I use it. I love it. I probably couldn't exercise in the heat without it, if I'm perfectly honest these days. I don't know where I'd be without them. So get over there and check it out.
Great. Right, Coach's Couch, Rob.
Coach's Couch. This week, Hells, we're talking about testing and the importance of testing.
Love a good FTP test on the bike.
Yeah. Nobody really loves to be given the test, but it's pretty important, isn't it? So we talked last week, and we'll give you a quick overview again. We've come up with our training system for 70.3 and Ironman distance triathletes, the time training system. The TIME stands for testing, intensity, mindset, and effective effort. Thank you very much. Smooth. So we're going to do a little bit about testing this week and the next couple of weeks, and we'll talk individually about the sports. So the first question to consider is, how regularly are you testing yourself and your progress in each of the sports at the moment? Because for most people, if they're honest, the answer is pretty rarely, if ever. And one of the big problems is that people who do test sometimes don't really know what to do with the results of the test, other than just to go either I've improved or I've not improved. So as you can probably work out, that's a pretty big problem, because if you don't have the data, or even worse, if you don't know what to do with it when you've got it, you're definitely not going to be training most effectively. So my big thing is, if there's any aspect of your training where you aren't quite sure what power or pace or intensity to go at, and you're kind of just doing what feels right, then you can pretty much guarantee, unfortunately, you're wasting your valuable time and effort. So the way we're going to go about testing you on the bike is dead simple, Hells. We're going to get you to do a 20-minute, what we call an FTP test. And what that means is, at the end of it, if you've got a power meter, we're going to come out of it with a power number that we can then relate all of your training intensities to. You don't have to have a power meter, though. You can do the same test using a heart rate monitor. And again, you can then get a whole bunch of zones for the different exercise intensities you need to do for the different training sessions that you need to do. And even if you haven't got a heart rate monitor or a power meter, there's still ways to do it if you've got an old-fashioned speedo. So a lot of the Garmin's have got like a rear wheel speed and distance kind of sensor on. You can use that for your testing as well. But the absolute key is that you're doing the testing regularly. So we suggest every 6 to 8 weeks. And then that way, you know that your zones are up to date and you are completely on top of the intensity that you're training at all the time. Because essentially, you want to remove all the guesswork from your training that you possibly can. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. And I need to do some testing at our bike session with the Tri Club.
Yeah. How long is it since you've done your FTP test, would you say, at the moment?
Oh, like ages.
Ages.
Properly ages. Probably, yeah. I think we did one in February.
There you go. Well, I think most people, Hells, maybe not in that position of not having tested from February. I'm right there with you personally. But I think for most people, we're getting to the end of October, aren't we? Season's over and people have been having a bit of a break. And I think a lot of clubs are starting up the winter turbo sessions and a lot of athletes are turning their thoughts towards the winter training. So about now is the time to start doing a couple of harder sessions and then get yourself an FTP test planned in. And then you know exactly what power or heart rate or pace to be training at over the coming block. So you know exactly what intensities you need to be going at.
That is exactly it. So yeah, I'm going to do it over the next couple of weeks with our guys.
A bit of turbo torture for your group, hey?
Yeah, playlists at the ready. It's all fine. We're going to use the same playlist as last year because Girls Aloud comes on at just about the right time.
I love it. Hey, last thing from me. There's a link in the show notes to this one to a webinar that I've just put out, including the details of how to do an FTP testing. So if all of this sounds like gobbledygook to you, or it's the first time you've heard of it, or if you've heard of it and you're not quite sure of the details, go and click the link for the webinar. I'll take you through all of the things that you need to know during that, and that'll help you get your training intensities spot on so you've been making the most of your training time.
Nice.
Interview of the week this week, Hells.
Oh, Rob, it is with a very remarkable woman called Camilla Pedersen.
She's a superstar legend of the sport, no question, Hells, but she's even more remarkable because tell us what happened to her.
So back in 2013, she was like riding the wave, Rob. She was in a really, really amazing form. She had won the Ironman and the Ironman 70.3 European titles that summer. She was preparing for the World Championships in Hawaii. And then she was out training on her final ride in Denmark, and she was involved in a horrible accident. She was taken to hospital. She was put into a coma for 19 days. She was told that she'd never walk again, that she would obviously never ever do a triathlon. She was told she was going to be in a wheelchair, she wouldn't be talking. And then just a year later, she was crowned ITU long distance triathlon world champion. It's absolutely awesome. And it was a real privilege actually to speak to Camilla, because it really hammered home the importance of doing what you love and doing what you're passionate about, because we do only live once. And yeah, we spoke to her at Ironman Wales where she finished second recently, and then I knew that it was an interview with someone that I wanted to talk more to. So here we go. Here is this week's interview of the week with Camilla Pedersen. Camilla Pedersen, hello and welcome to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon podcast.
Thank you.
I know you've been someone who ages and ages ago, I emailed and I said, hey, we'd love to have you on, and it just didn't happen ages and ages ago. But thankfully I saw you at Ironman Wales, and then I followed up, and now here you are, here you're on.
I'm not really here, but I'm here.
So where are you then?
Right now I'm on Lanzarote, Club La Santa. It's a little warmer down here and back home in Denmark. So, and then I heard there's a race on Saturday here. So when I'm here training, I might as well do a good race also. It's really good and hard training.
It'd be rude not to do it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be rude, and yeah, I guess that's what I like about the sport. It's about doing races and test where you are and what you have to work on and stuff like that. But we'll see, because it's not that long ago since Ironman Wales, so my body has been a little tired since. It was really fresh the week after, and I was like, I'm ready to do another Ironman. But then I think it's pretty normal. Then on the second and third week, then that's where you get hit.
And the fatigue.
Yeah, then you get tired. So I feel tired, but it's somehow my run is slow, my swim is slow. Like maybe it's my watch that's
faulty.
Or the satellite. Yeah, I don't know, because I can't understand I'm running so slow because it doesn't feel so slow.
At Wales, you managed to qualify for Kona for next year. So
yes,
you're in, I guess, quite a unique position, because obviously most people at the moment have, as we're talking, about 10, 12 days until the biggest race of the year. Is it strange not being involved?
Actually, I like it. That sounds strange. But I'm actually really happy I'm not in Hawaii this year, because I know I'm not ready. And I've done it 3 times now, and I haven't been ready because I've had some issues after I had an accident 5 years ago. And then I did my first qualification before my accident, where I won the Frankfurt Ironman. So I really look forward to do the race in 13 as the first time, and my second Ironman. But then I had the accident, and then I qualified again in 15. But then I did the 70.3 Europeans in Wiesbaden, and I won it. And I was really happy and really excited about going to Kona for the first time. But then I got 2 disc prolapse in my lower back. So I couldn't run or sit on my TT bikes as the preparation for Hawaii, and the doctor said I couldn't do it. So it really wasn't the best preparation for Hawaii. My first Hawaii in 15, I did all my biking on a road bike. I did aqua jogging because I couldn't run. But still, I did my first run pretty much at Hawaii, and I ended up at 8th. So I was pretty happy about that. Wow. But then in 16, I had problems. And then last year, I went out of the race because I had a deal with my coach, because I've been having a hard time keeping just water, pure water or energy in me. Also in training, it's not only in races, but then when you race on Hawaii, it's so hot and humid. You need a lot of water and hydration. And but then again, we that's what we are trying to do. So Wales was actually my first Ironman in almost 2 years. And we were there to test some new things off. We were trying to find a solution to the problem. So it wasn't well prepared for Ironman Wales. But it was nice to get it was the first Ironman in 5 years where I actually had a good feeling about it. So that's why I'm happy I'm not in Hawaii right now, because I'm not ready. But I'm happy I have a year to do more races, to do maybe a couple of more Ironmans, to find the best way for me when I'm at the start line in Hawaii next year.
Can you believe what you've been through over the past 5 years?
Oh, it's been a long journey. It's been some hell of a roller coaster, where it's been going up and down, and I'm still on that roller coaster, but I kind of like it. It's that's why I keep going. A lot of people ask me why I still do it, because I have so many issues after my accident. My body doesn't work the same. I still have some brain injury, and the brain controls the whole body, and it's hard for people to see, because you can bike, you can swim, you can run, you can talk, you can walk. Yeah, I know, but I still have some injuries in my brain, and since the brain controls the whole body, it's also have an impact on that one. So for me, it was kind of starting all over. I had to get to know myself again. Had to get to know myself, how my body works now, because it's so much different. And that's the part I like about it. I like to figure out, okay, because it's not always the straight roads that's the best. So right now I'm taking a lot of turns, and I also hit a lot of dead ends on my path. Then I just have to go back and try another one. But it's a challenge, and it's interesting.
For people who might be quite new to triathlon, maybe, or they've perhaps listened to the podcast maybe only over the past couple of years, they might not be aware of what happened in 2013. So, can you just remind them what happened to you?
I was out on a training. It was the 3rd of September, and was in Denmark, and it was my last preparation before I was going to go to do 70.3 Cozumel and then go from there to Hawaii. And I was in my best shape ever. It was fine. I won the Europeans on half Ironman. I won the European championships on full Ironman. I was second at the World Championships. So it was really a good year for me, and I was still new in the sport because I started triathlon in 2010. And I was so excited about going to Hawaii. But then I was out riding on my bike, and then some 7 kids, 10 years old, they crossed the street over a pedestrian walk, but they biked over it. But they came in from a wood, and then they crossed the road. I was going downhill. So I, of course, tried to avoid to hit the boars. But I hit some of their wheels, and I flew over my bike. Pretty much landed on my head and my right side. So my bike was fine. It was really important. That's the first thing you think about. No, I was unconscious pretty straight after. So I broke. I had a skull fracture 2 places. I broke my hip, my collarbone, some ribs. And then I got sent to the hospital, and then I was gone. And then I was in coma. They put me into induced coma for 3 weeks because my pressure in my brain was so high. And it was really, intense. Like I could die every second the first 2 weeks I was in coma. Because it was so critical. And then I started to be a little bit more stable, and then after 3 weeks they could take me out of coma. But then they said that because of all my injuries I would never walk again. I should be in a wheelchair the rest of my life. They told my family that I was not going to be able to talk again because I had injuries in the speaking center of the brain, and I couldn't remember who I was and who they were, because again I had injuries in the memory part of the brain and in the frontal lobe, and so it was a little bit hard for my family to see, but after 10 days I could stand on my legs again. I just couldn't move my feet because again with the injuries in the brain, it's the brain again that controls that you're moving your arm, your legs, everything, even though you don't really notice, but I've learned how much the brain actually controls in the body. So I had to start from scratch with everything. I had a hard time talking in the beginning. And I actually still do when I get tired. But the good thing is that I have a hard time finding the Danish word.
But so you find in English?
I know. And so every time I have I always know the words in English. But then I talk with especially a doctor who specializes in brains, and he said it's because that's where your speaking center, where you have the damage. It's where it's because you're grown, like you learn Danish from when you're born, but then you learn English later on, and it's sitting in another part of the brain. So I'm actually better at speaking English than I'm at speaking Danish when I get tired.
That is fascinating.
Yeah, so I've learned so many new things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny actually, but then it's been a long journey because like the body doesn't react as it does before. Like, for example, my right side, it reacts faster than the left side. So if I do strength training, I have to do like 4 sets with the right side and only 2 sets with the left side, because my right side on the muscle part, it reacts faster. So that's also when I'm running and when I'm biking, I have to pay a lot of attention that it should feel like I'm putting more pressure on the left side than on the right side, because otherwise my body again is going to be like I'm going to have bigger legs on right side than left side. So it's again with some of the damage I have. There's just so many things I have to pay attention to, and yeah, I have a heart disease now, so I can't take antibiotics because they're going to give me a heart stop. I have osteoporosis, so because I got so much medicine when I was in coma, so I can't do too much running. So I sometimes have to do some cross trainer or run in an LTG machine. LTG machine is kind of like a treadmill, but you take some pants on, and then you kind of goes into a bubble that goes air in. So you're running with like 80 or 90% of your own weight. But it's to take some of the pressure off because my body can't handle running too much.
I'm sitting here with my jaw has dropped when you're saying all of this. I'm thinking, how the hell are you doing the Ironman? Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, but it's because it's my passion, and a lot of people think I'm crazy, I'm an idiot, that I went back to doing triathlon because I had a crash, and I was like, the crash could have been to someone, like to anybody. It was not because I couldn't control the bike. It was not because it was not my fault, really. Like, I was just the wrong place at the wrong time. And it could happen to anybody. Like, it could also I could have been walking in the streets in the city and a car could have hit me. Like, it's just an accident. And I love this sport. I love all the challenges it gives you. I love all the memories that I had before the accident. I love all the memories that I get from this sport. I love all the people that's into this sport. I love the atmosphere around it. It's pretty simple to just say I love it. I love everything about it. Like, you always, even though you're competitors, you still talk to each other. You still hang out. You still train. Like, and that's what I love about the sport. That, yeah, it's kind of a big family.
And I guess being so close to not being able to do it ever again makes you appreciate and want to do it so much more.
Yeah, of course you look at life differently, you know, like you only live once and you can be gone in a second. And so you really have to do what you love, and there's not much money in this sport. And it's a lot of hard work. It's not like being a soccer player or a tennis player or golf player, but it's still about passion and about doing what you love. Because for me, I would rather live 5 or 10 years shorter, but then have enjoyed my life instead of wrapping myself in to protect myself more, because that would kill me. Because I love to be out. I love to, like for me, like the most relaxing part is sitting on my bike, like getting fresh air, the wind, the nature, everything you see, instead of sitting at an office, for example. Like, because I always been addicted to sports since I was a kid.
Would you describe the first time you got back on a bike on the road? Were you scared or were you excited?
I was a little bit, I was not scared about going on the bike, but I was a little bit thinking, okay, how am I going to react? Like, now I'm going to sit on a bike again, and how's it going to feel? Am I going to be afraid of it? Because I didn't feel afraid of biking. But then again, when you sit on it, then how do you react with traffic and how do you use things like that? But I really loved it. First time I was on my bike, I loved every second of it. I loved sitting on it, and I wasn't scared at once. And like before, I always been, people think I'm a little bit crazy when it goes downhill. But I still love going fast. I still love taking the turns downhill. And it's because if you're first scared of being on a bike, that's also what I told myself, then you're not going to go on a bike again. Because if you're first scared, then that's where you have the crashes. So it's really important when you bike that you're actually relaxed in your body, because the more stiff you are, if you're anxious, then the possibility for a crash is a lot higher.
That's very good advice for anyone, who might be a bit nervous for descending. It is really important to be relaxed.
It's the most important thing about it. And maybe, I don't know why I have it. I think maybe I have it. I used to play ice hockey a lot, and you do a lot of turns and stuff like that when you play ice hockey. And then when I did my studies, I had a motorcycle. So I was riding to and from school, because my school was 80 kilometers away from my city. So I took the motorcycle to and from school for like 3 years. And that's also, when you've been on a motorcycle, you're used to taking the turns and stuff like that. So I don't know if I haven't from there, or I think I never really been afraid of speed and turns and stuff like that. So it's so important that you're not, because that's the worst thing about being on a bike.
The doctor who said you might never walk again, you might never ride again, how have they, have you been in touch with them a lot since? Do you speak to them a lot? What do they say?
Yeah, I went to see them after I came out of the hospital and started to do better. And then they were pretty amazed about seeing me and how far I got so quickly.
Did you run to see them, Camilla? Did you run or go on your bike to see them? Turn up covered in sweat.
Yeah, pretty much. No, like most of them followed me because I was all of a sudden a known name. And so they followed me on social medias and stuff. So they knew what I was doing. And then I met one of them last year, actually, I was on my way to Red Bull in Austria to do some tests. And then I met him on the way in the plane, and I talked with, it was the main doctor. And no, he's just a really, really nice guy. But they also have to tell people like the worst thing that can happen. And that's just, they've never seen anything like me, because I was on the intense with the part of the hospital where they don't see many come out of there alive. Wow. So for them it's also a really hard work and hard job they do. So for them it was so amazing to see that one of the people they've been fighting so hard to get to survive, that she was actually doing well, and she seemed pretty normal again, and all the things she achieved. So they were so happy to see me, and it's so nice also to go and thank the doctors, because I know they worked really, really hard for me to get back to life.
It is incredible. Let's rewind a little bit more, back to 2010, and a certain Rasmus Henning gave you a call, right? And is that how you got into triathlon?
Yeah, Rasmus Henning called me, and first I thought it was a salesman, because I was like, yeah. But then he started talking about triathlon, and I was like, is it that Rasmus Henning? Is it him? Because he was a big name in Denmark. And then he heard that I was an old swimmer, and that he was going to start a youth team. But you had to be between 15 and 23, and I was 26 at that time.
You were a granny.
Oh yeah, I was a granny. And then I was like, well, that kind of sounds fun, because I was going to finish my education. And so I went to a weekend with all the young ones, and where we had to do some tests. And then after that weekend, he called me and said, he could see some potential in me if I wanted to be on this youth national team. And I was like, yeah, but I've never done a triathlon. Like all the others on this weekend, there were triathletes. And it's like, I've never done a triathlon, not even tried one. And how should I start? But yeah, so he got me into it, and we went on training camps and with the national team and stuff like that. And then the national coach also saw some potential in me. And then I did my first triathlon in May 2010 at the Bundesliga in Germany. Yeah. So I did my first triathlon as a pro.
Wow, that's amazing.
And then it went pretty fast from there, yeah.
And you hadn't swum for like 8 years or something. You just hated swimming so much that you really had not been in that pool.
Yeah, I stopped swimming in 2002, and then I hated it. That's also why an old swim colleague of mine, he tried to get me into a triathlon because he had been doing it, but I was like, then I have to swim again. But then, then I started swimming again, and then I started, actually my old swim coach from when I pretty much started swimming, he was still the head coach at my city. So I started swimming again, but then all the swimmers were a lot younger than me when I started. And again, the day to day when I'm back home, I still swim with them. And I'm like, they're like 14, 15, and I'm like 35. So sometimes it's kind of fun. They could be my kids.
You do hear of other pros doing that. Like, I saw something about Lionel Sanders doing something similar because he was like, I really need to improve my swimming. And that was the group that it was available. It was young kids. And, you know, it must, for someone like Lionel Sanders, it must, take a lot of guts to do that.
Yeah, well, again, like, of course, some of the young ones look at you and like, but I don't feel that old. Like, it's not that I'm old, but 35, I really don't feel I'm 35.
Do you still feel about 23, Camilla? Because I do. I'm the same age as you, and I feel, I don't know, 27, 25?
Yeah, around 25, I would say. Yeah, because I don't feel like young, but I feel I am a little bit grown at some points, but I definitely don't feel like 35. Like if you look at my mom, for example, like when she was my age, my brother, he was 17 and I was 14.
Oh my goodness.
I know, that's why I'm like, shit, could I really have 2 kids that was that old right now? But then again, it's something about that. The times just go fast, and I don't know. I don't feel old when I'm swimming with the young ones. Sometimes sometimes I feel it, but mostly because they're kids.
Yeah.
But I still love it, and they kick my ass, and I hate that. But that also makes you work harder because you kind of you hate that. That's also why I like swimming with people that swim better than me, because then I really have to work hard to follow. And I like to bike with people where I really have to get myself together to follow. And that's also why I like to do races, like where I don't look at the start list to find a race where there's not many on the start list. I like to do races where the best are, so I know where I am and I get my ass kicked, so I know I'm not good enough. I can do better. It gives me motivation to train harder and stuff like that, instead of just, I could pick a lot of races where I could go out and probably win them easy, but that's not what I love about this sport. I want to be the best, but that also means you have to race against the best.
And how do you prepare yourself mentally for races?
There's of course some races that means more than others, so you also have to be careful that you don't pull yourself up too high every time. because that's going to take you down at some point. And that's also why, like, for my race I did in France, it went really well in Chardmer. I won it, and I haven't prepared at all for that race. And then after that race, that's where we decided that I was going to do Ironman Wales the weekend after. And I really didn't prepare for Ironman Wales. We haven't done any preparation in training. And it also takes some of the pressure off, but we had to do the race to test some things out. And because if you, at all the races you do, you kind of like take some easy days up to the race, then at some point you can't keep doing that. Then your endurance will keep going, take a step down. So you have to pick some races throughout the year, what is most important, maybe 1 or 2 races. And then all the races, other races you do, like for example, the race on Saturday, it's just going to be a training for me, because I'm not going to have some easy days up to the race. I'm just going to do what I normally do in training. Maybe I'll have the day before or 2 days before, I'll drop a little bit in the training and the intensity in the training. But it's still like I'm not 100% ready for that race, because you can't be 100% ready for all the races you do. Then you're not gonna perform well when you have to perform well.
That's so true. And Camilla, what is harder, running 17 kilometers with a broken foot, or which you did in one of your Ironmans, or watching your beloved ice hockey team losing in a big cup final?
Oh yeah, see, that's a hard one to say. Oh, I hate losing. And then I get my heart hockey has a big place in my heart. So sometimes I really just want to kick those guys' asses, and because sometimes they feel so sorry for themselves. So yeah, actually it was hard running it was a broken hip for 17 kilometers.
A broken hip.
It hurt. Yeah, it hurt like shit. But then again, when you're in this, you have all the adrenaline kicking in your body, and you're there for a reason. You have the mentality. You're there to win, and you're really good at cutting the pain out. Sometimes it depends on how good you are to corroborate with the science and stuff like that. But for me, it was hard, but it was a big victory for me that I didn't just say, okay, I'm out, I'm sorry, I can't do this. But I kept fighting, because I won it. So it was my first Ironman. So I was really happy about that. But then again, the ice hockey boys, they lost. That sucked. But I came quickly over that than running 17 kilometers with a broken hip.
Oh, that is so funny. Honestly, that is absolutely brilliant. Camilla, thank you so much for coming on the Oxygen Addict Triathlon podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
My pleasure. It was nice.
Hels, I think you absolutely hit the nail on the head at the start of this interview when you said it's all about doing something that you love with your life and reminding that life can be short.
Yeah.
I know. That's the real takeaway from that, isn't it? God bless for getting back and get stuck back in like that. What a great interview.
It's great, isn't it? So there we go. So we all need to channel our inner Camilla this week and really think about what's important to you in life and what you love doing, and just try to do more of it. So yeah, interview of the week sponsored by foodcell.co.uk, and you can still be in with a chance of winning one of 3 free food cells. You just need to follow them on Twitter and Instagram. They're at FlowCellEurope. Send them a message with the hashtag FoodCell, and then they're going to enter all the names into a draw, pick out 3 names at random before the end of this month, and then everyone that enters will get a unique 25% off code from their first purchase.
Awesome stuff. And remember, FoodCell, a fantastic, nifty little top tube storage system with a little slidey bit that allows you to get your gels or your food in and out of the thing as you're moving along. that's really important to actually be able to get your stuff out of your fancy little top tube storage unit, because guess what? A lot of them don't work, but Food Cell do. They work really, really well. You can take it off your bike even, and this is really highlighted, Hells, in the photos I've seen from Hawaii. So we mentioned earlier Paul Lunn, who was third in the male 45 category, 9 hours and 8 minutes. He had one of these on his bike, and they put up a photograph of his bike in transition the day before. It's got the little fixing kit for his Food Cell on the top tube there, waiting for the Food Cell to slide into on race day morning. And all around him, all the other bikes have got their nutrition already in the top tube, cooking in the sun. So genius idea to be able to put it on and take it off and wash it and stuff really easily. So top product, and well done, Paul, on your third place finish there. Now then, Hells, tying in with your thing there from what you've just said about Camilla and seizing the day and life can be short and all of that. We've got another quick interview here with a guy called Peter McCleve, who, this is a story that's very close to my heart. Peter was an athlete that I coached in Team Oxygen Addict a year ago, and he was unfortunately diagnosed with myeloma just after completing Ironman Wales in 2016. So he started training with us, and he was feeling really unwell, and he took a break from the coaching and eventually emailed to say, look, I'm going to have to stop the training because I've got to go in for treatment with this myeloma. So he's an incredible guy. He's set up a website called 10,000donors.com to help find stem cell matches for people who have this disease. So I've read about him on Facebook over the past couple of years, and he's doing quite well at the moment. And obviously he's putting all his energy into his website. So I really thought if we could get a 10-minute interview with him on, help raise the profile. So just sit and listen to this, everyone. Don't fast forward through it. Really listen to this, because it's a great cause and you could really help people out. Okay, Pete, it's lovely to get the chance to welcome you onto the show. I'm really excited that sort of you're doing better than you were last time we spoke, certainly, and to give you a chance to get your story out to the podcast listeners a little bit. So backstory is you were great age grouper, you'd done Ironman Wales, and then all of a sudden we get a bit of an unpleasant surprise in the old health stakes, don't we? Do you want to fill us in with the backstory?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd spent the previous 9 months in 2016 basically training for Ironman Wales, and then completed the race in September, and obviously was overjoyed and over the moon with that performance. And then 2 days later, found myself in the Countess of Chester Hospital, and I got quickly diagnosed with Legionnaire's sepsis and pneumonia, which was totally unexpected. So went from the pinnacle of my fitness to being in a bit of a bad state. And then over subsequent months, I assumed it would clear itself and get back to normal, but things were just not clearing as they should do. So I had a number of x-rays on my chest. There was a shadow from the pneumonia on my chest, and it just wasn't shifting. So they took me in for an MRI scan about 3.5-4 months after the my admittance to the Countess. And by pure chance, and this is where I was very lucky, by pure chance, the MRI scan was viewed by a radiographer who spotted some abnormalities on my skeleton. And these were lesions, which were they were a sign of weakening, a bit like osteoporosis.
Okay.
And from there, they didn't tell me at the time, but they did blood tests, and then they did another full body MRI scan, from which they noticed these lesions everywhere. So skull, skeleton, the chest, legs. You think of a bone, it was being compromised. So they did blood tests, and I got called in to see my doctor and was given a diagnosis of myeloma, and I'd never heard of myeloma. So, I actually said to the doctor at the time, can it be cleared with antibiotics? And, with a very stern face, he told me that it was a blood cancer and that it couldn't be cured. And then subsequent conversations, it came out that, if I got through the next 7 years, then I'd have done well with this diagnosis. Wow. So it went from, the pinnacle and peak to almost the lowest of the low, when you're telling your family, your parents, you have to manage your children. So I've got 2 boys aged 8 and 5 now.
Yeah.
You go from, very high to very low very quickly. So
sure, yeah.
That in a nutshell was where we got from Ironman Wales. And they said they think I was actually, that the myeloma was there, probably a year before the diagnosis. So all the way through training, little symptoms were there, but you know what it's like. I mean, when you're training as a triathlete, if you're feeling achy, you assume it's just because you've had a good training session, and you sort of revel in it, or you're a bit tired and fatigued, and that's just you're working hard, you're training hard. You just put these things down to day-to-day living. But in reality, these are all the signs of the myeloma sort of manifesting. So it was there during training. I just didn't realize it and ignored it. So, But again, I count myself very lucky that I was picked up the way I was, because many people who get myeloma, they get kidney failure, and they can end up in a real state by the time they actually get diagnosis. So mine was picked up probably sooner than well, I was very lucky when it got picked up, because it could have been a lot worse in terms of where I ended up.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, as you said, you went from the high of the highs from completing your first Ironman to all of a sudden being diagnosed as incredibly sick. How has the journey played out over the next? This was late 2016, wasn't it? So over the next couple of years, how's your sort of treatment and recovery gone?
Yeah, so I was pretty much immediately. It was March 2017 when I got the diagnosis. I was pretty much, within 4 to 5 weeks, put on a regime of chemotherapy, and it didn't really work, unfortunately. So they then put me on a second regime of chemotherapy, which was very, very intensive, and that was the first time I lost my hair and sort of became part of the club. You actually start to look, unfortunately, like you have it, whereas before I was able to kind of fob it off and just push on through. Yeah. But then that therapy stopped working as well, and so they put me on a third regime of chemotherapy, which it got my body in a position where I might be able to go through what they call a stem cell transplant, and that's where I had what's called an autologous stem cell transplant. So they took my stem cells, cleaned them up, then blasted me with a big dose of chemotherapy, and then they put my stem cells back in. And for those people who aren't clear what stem cell is, it's basically a stem cell is the precursor to all cells in your body, whether it's hair, whether it's skin, nose, or blood. All cells start as a stem cell. So when they blast you with the chemotherapy, and then they stick you in a room for a couple of weeks in isolation, the stem cells that go back in will then spot that there are good cells missing, and they should proliferate and grow into good healthy cells, and that's the theory. So over the subsequent year, those are the 3 steps that we went through leading up to the autologous stem cell transplant, and I've just been recovering for the last couple of months from that. So I went into the Christie Hospital in June, it was, and I've just been getting myself fit and well ever since, sort of leading up to where we are today.
Wow, what an incredible story in a few minutes of time. And well, the next thing is, I mean, you've just told me off air, but tell everybody what you did a couple of weekends ago.
Yeah,
you maniac.
I'm just my belief and approach to all of this is one of proactivity. I think most people who do triathlons have a certain mindset. You can sit and have a chit chat over a protein shake, and you soon realize that we're all of a similar way of thinking. So I'm sure most people empathize with it. But you can spend your life sitting back and waiting for people to do things for you, or you can get off your backside and do them for yourself. So my approach has been to get as fit as I possibly could do and maintain a positive mental approach to this whole thing. I mean, sitting around wallowing is not going to help anybody, least of all me. So a couple of weeks ago, I wasn't expecting to be fit enough, but I completed as a part of a relay. In fairness, I did Ironman Weymouth, so I did the bike leg, and it was rotten weather. It was rainy, it was cold and wet, but it was kind of like me. It was almost like a 2 fingers up to cancer as far as I was concerned, because I wasn't expecting to be fit enough. But got myself around on the bike, and we ran down that red carpet, and it was the first step back to almost when life was as good as it could be, because the last time I ran down the red carpet was obviously Ironman Wales in 2016, and since then it's just been downhill. So it's one more step towards redemption. Sounds a little bit dramatic, but I can't think of a better word to use. It's just a further step towards me trying to battle this and do the things I enjoy doing, of which triathlon was a huge part of my life.
Yeah, good man. I don't think redemption's too big a word at all. I think it's the perfect word for it. So listen, next up, tell us about your next mission. Basically, you've got a website called 10,000donors.com. Tell us what that's all about and what your focus is again with this.
Yeah, so basically, I mentioned earlier on I had a stem cell transplant where they took my stem cells and cleaned them up a bit, and that's only so effective. There is another type of stem cell transplant called an allogenic stem cell transplant, and what they do is they take someone who is a genetic match for me as a patient or someone else as a patient, and they're able to take their stem cells and put them into my body, and that they will effectively grow into a new immune system. So I'm effectively getting a brand new immune system. So where I've been given a prognosis of 7 years, if I can get myself a stem cell donor, the prognosis is infinitely better. You're looking way beyond 7 years if it works and works well. So it won't cure it. Unfortunately, myeloma cannot be cured, but it can be managed. And this is one of the most effective technologies that we have to manage myeloma right now. So the 10,000 Donors campaign, like I explained before, is my proactive attempt to try and get more people signed up, not just for me, but for everybody who has an ailment which can be assisted with stem cell therapy. So, there are lots of different trials out there. It's not just blood cancer that patients that can benefit from this, but that's obviously my focus now. But, some of the startling facts for me are, there's only 2% of the UK population currently on the stem cell donor register, which it sounds low, but it gives us a great opportunity to make some massive inroads into that. We've got 98% of the population to try and, basically attack and get signed up. So that's the primary goal of 10,000donors.com. It's just to make people aware, educate people, and get them registered as stem cell donors. And the great thing about stem cell donation is it's such a simple process. You get tested by swabbing your cheek. There's no needles. There's nothing nasty involved in how you get tested. It takes 3 minutes. Swab your cheek, and it gets sent to you at your home for free. You return your swabs in a prepaid envelope, so it costs you nothing.
Yeah.
And it's like donating an organ, right? If you donate a kidney, it's gone. Stem cells, you've got millions of little tinkers running around your body, and they're regenerating every single minute of every single day. So, if you're lucky enough to be chosen to be a match for someone, then you're giving something for free, and you are effectively you could be saving someone's life. It's that simple. So, it's blown my head away that so few people are aware of it. But it's relatively speaking a young technology, so it's maybe not a surprise that not many people are either aware of it or signed up. So my goal through 10,000donors.com is to get more people aware and more people registered, not just for me, but for the thousands of people who get diagnosed. And another stark fact that I've been made aware of is that every 20 minutes in the UK alone, somebody gets diagnosed with blood cancer. It's one of the cancers that no one really talks about or is really aware of, but it's becoming more and more prevalent. So you shouldn't, if you get diagnosed, you shouldn't have to go searching for a stem cell donor. As far as I'm concerned, it should be as readily available as aspirin. And that's kind of my mantra for this whole project. It's to get that donor registered. So, in a bunch of years, if somebody gets given the message I was given, the doctor can say, but we've checked the register and we found your match and you're going in next week to get a stem cell donation, rather than me spending the last 4 or 5 months and however long into the future I do this trying to find a stem cell match. Yeah,
absolutely. It's such a great cause and it's such a simple way. I know, because you're relatively local to us, there's loads of the guys from our Tri Club have posted pictures of themselves on social media. They've got the kit, swabbing the cheek, sending it back. And it really is just as simple as going to your website, 10,000donors.com, clicking on a thing and registering, and then who knows, you might be in a position to save somebody's life, right?
Absolutely. And the great thing is, we've only been running this campaign now for 5 weeks. In the first 5 weeks, we've already got over 1,300 people signed up. And I've had 3 people, I was told of the third person yesterday, who've actually been matched with somebody. So they've all gone down to London and they've all been, done the stem cell donation for somebody in the world, because the register itself is a global register. So,
wow.
There are 3 lives that have been able to directly benefit, lives that could have potentially been saved by our campaign alone. And excuse me, plenty of other people are, trying to raise awareness. But, it's incredible to know that in such a short space of time, we've got that many people and 3 matches already. And it can only go one way, and that's up. So, even when I hit the 10,000 mark, which I've got no doubt this campaign will, I'll just stick a 0 on the end of the target and start again. And then when we hit that target, stick another 0 on and start again. It's the only way to attack this. It's just making people aware and getting out there.
Well, that's brilliant. Well, I'll tell you what, we've got over 3,000 weekly listeners on the show, and every month we get something like 7,000 unique listens. So who knows, man, if every one of those people registered, we'd be well on the way to the 10,000 donors, wouldn't we?
Well, it would be absolutely incredible. And, you even if you don't get called up straight away, there is a greater potential there to impact somebody's life. And it's not, the thing that it's like any cancer, it transcends race, gender, bank balance, all the things that we get, siloed off in every single day. It doesn't matter what your background is, because this thing can sadly impact anybody, and this is our way of coming together and saying, screw this.
Yeah,
we can make a difference here. We can fight this together, and that's the other, another one of my big aims is it's to make people aware, but bring people together and find things that we have in common rather than those differences that so readily get focused on in the papers and the news, wherever every day.
Yeah, man. Well, I tell you what, the podcast community stand next to you with this one, and I'm really hoping we can get tons and tons of sign-ups for you. And what have you got planned for next year in terms of triathlon action? Where can people see you, man? Because it'd be great if they donated and then got to meet you in person. What have you got lined up?
Well, at the moment, nothing. As I say, the Weymouth thing was was a nice thing to be able to do. It was an unexpected thing to be able to do after the transplant. So I know I've got one friend, he's going to Mallorca. In my head, I'd love to go back and do Wales again. It was an incredible race, but I don't know. I've always fancied doing the Norseman, that crazy thing where you jump off the back. Yeah. But it's really hard to get into that. So no, I'm still open to ideas as to what to do next year. But I'm definitely getting back and doing the full try is absolutely the key. So I don't know. As soon as I've booked it, I'll let you know, Rob.
Well, you do that. As soon as you've booked it, you let us know. We'll get it out on the show, and who knows, maybe there'll be a little community of people pushing alongside you on race day, hey?
Oh, definitely. I mean, look, at the very least, I'm out there supporting my friends who have been running triathlon for a bunch of years. So, I'm going to be there. If I'm not doing it, I'm certainly supporting people next year. Great
stuff. Right. So again, that website is 10,000donors.com. You just click the link, put your name in, and get the swab kit through the post.
Absolutely. It's that simple. Costs you nothing. 3 minutes of your time.
Brilliant stuff. Well, listen, Peter, on behalf of everybody, we wish you all the best with your continued recovery, my man, and look forward to hearing about, hopefully crossing the finish line in Wales next year.
Absolutely. Yes. So thanks so much for engaging with this, Rob, and for giving me the opportunity to come and talk to you. Really appreciate it.
No problem, man. Speak to you again soon.
Cheers, Rob. Thanks. Bye.
Pretty groovy, hey Hells, that you can just get posted through the post, a little mouth swab, and who knows, you could potentially save somebody's life just by going and donating some blood cells.
And I know a lot of people who've done that recently, including people.
He's got a lot of friends in our club, hasn't he? He's got a lot of friends in our club who've been doing this. So if anyone listening can sign up and be a potential donor, that'd be absolutely brilliant. We've got close to 7,000 unique listeners every month these days. So if every one of you signed up, Peter'd be nearly all of the way there to his target. So please do it.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Right, Rob, some news to finish off with.
Yeah.
So first up, always aim high. We talk a lot about Slate Man and Sandman and some of the other amazing races. Next year, you're going to be able to do Slate Man Legend, which will be a 1.9k swim, 91k bike, and a 21k run around Snowdonia. Nice little tasty bit of 1,660 meters of ascent, Rob, on that bike.
Nice. I'm looking forward to that. I'm thinking that might be my entry for May. Quite fancy that myself, Els.
It'll be good, that one.
It sure will. Next up, the 70.3 Worlds are heading to Taupo in New Zealand in 2020. What a stunning place to have it. Good on them.
Yeah, that'd be very, very nice, wouldn't it? And then, Rob, the final little bit was, did you see some of the pictures of the Shiv, the bike that Lucy Charles and Tim Don and a couple of others are riding this week?
I did.
At Kona. Didn't it just look amazing? So basically, it was very, very different. And all of the the hydration system was on the back of the bike, and then it's got this nifty tube all the way through, which then with the straw up at the front end. But yeah, it looks very, very nice. So go and check out some pictures of it. And I'm not usually a bike sort of person. That's more you, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I thought,
I'm not a big fan, Hells. I looked at it and I was like, no, it's not doing it for me.
Wow,
but it's horses for courses. Yeah, they've done something new. If you've got a spare 14,000, then there you go, fill your boots.
That's it. And my one last thing, Rob, thank you very much, Naomi Wright, for dragging my sorry butt to the finish line at our first cross-country match of this season. She didn't have to at all. I blew up spectacularly with about a mile to go, and she came back past me and said, "Come on, Helen, stick with me."
Oh, bless.
Okay.
All right, everyone, listen, thanks very much for listening. You've been listening to the Oxygenetic Triathlon podcast. I'm Coach Rob Wilby.
I'm Helen Murray.
And until next week, have a great, safe training and racing week. And remember, get out there and do something that you love, because life can be short. See you next week, everybody. See ya.